Man, the UFC, they're sneaky, man. There's some sneaky sons of guns, man. The UFC dropped some of the sneakiest banger fight announcements of all time the other day. Like, did you guys know that these fights were announced? I just found this on X the other day. I'm like, wait a minute. Right? The boxing world's been going crazy the past few days, all the stuff that's been going on there. And I feel like these fight announcements absolutely flew under the radar, right? One, because there was really no emotion behind it. The UFC was just like, here, big bouts added, right? Posted on social media. And these are amazing matchups, man. Amazing matchups. These were all added to UFC 326, right? We all know the main event is Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira. So I figured I'd come on here, give my early preview and breakdown for these fights because these are some big fights, man. These are some big fights. And, you know, we got to give a shout out to the UFC, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about the matchmaking first, right? That's been going on in the UFC. But look at this card, man. This card so far, I mean, we're still a little ways out from 326, right? That's going to be in March. So, you know, we got back-to-back numbered events, right? It's 324 to start the new year, right? Then it's 325 the weekend after. Then we kind of get like a break with the fight nights, and then we get a numbered event here in 326. So it's kind of weird spacing when it comes to the numbered events to start the year. But look at this card. I mean, obviously, this is very, very new, this card that's getting put together here. But look at the matchups. Holloway versus Oliveira, banger. I get it, you know, BMF, WWE gimmick. I get it. But at the end of the day, it's a great matchup. Amazing fight, man. And we're going to have to talk about that matchup a little bit before I preview the fights that were just announced because I feel like Holloway versus Oliveira, man, given what we're seeing in the lightweight division, that fight might have a lot on it other than obviously it's a rematch and it's a BMF title fight. But I feel like the winner of that might find themselves in the next lightweight title shot, right? So very, very interesting. And, you know, I don't know how, you know, accurate this bout order is here on Tapology, but Renato Moicano versus Brian Ortega, like, I think that's a good fight, right? Brian Ortega being welcomed up to 155 pounds. It was inevitable that, you know, he was going to move up, was struggling to make weight. I mean, the weight cuts that we were seeing from Brian Ortega at 45 the past few fights, I mean, it was horrific. I don't know why he didn't move up earlier. I feel like the UFC was kind of dragging him along at 45, so good to see him at 55, right? That is a rematch with Renato Moicano. I think it's a good fight. I think that that's a very interesting stylistic matchup, but the one to me that is just very, very, very wild is Caio Borralho versus Reiner De Ridder, because if RDR did not lose to Brendan Allen, right, he might be getting the next title shot, right? He'd be in the conversation. I still don't think that it should be Nasruddin Imavov, but I feel like RDR would be kind of sitting out waiting for the next title opportunity, but now he goes out there and gets, let's be honest, man, got absolutely ran over and humiliated by Brendan Allen. Now that, you know, that hype train that RDR had just seems like it's kind of came to a screeching halt, right? And Caio Borralho's looking to bounce back after he lost to Nasruddin Imavov. So this is a big fight in the middleweight division, man. And stylistically, I think it's a really good fight. I think it's a very, very good fight. So we'll talk about that. And then Paulo Costa versus Bruno Ferriera. Absolute banger. You look at around the middleweight division. I mean, I know Bruno's kind of on the come up right now, but we know what Paulo Costa's about. Every single fight that he is in is basically entertaining. It's an absolute war pretty much every time he fights. And Bruno Ferreira kind of the same way, right? And then you got Cody Garbrandt versus Tumen Briol added onto this card as well. Cody Garbrandt versus Long Xiao. We're going to have to talk about Cody Garbrandt, man. And then Rafael Tobias and DR on here as well. So just some other fights added on. But, you know, obviously the card isn't completely built out. But just wanted to show you guys, man, like the UFC has been really cooking on a lot of the matchmaking, man. They absolutely have. Now, I want to be very clear when I talk about cooking with the matchmaking. Obviously, now Oliveira and Holloway, I don't mind it for the BMF belt. I get it. The BMF belt's kind of gimmicky. Like, should they do away with it? I mean, I take it or leave it. Like, it doesn't bother me that much, but I get why people complain about it. But to me, it's just basically a gentleman's agreement. You got two popular fighters that are going to go in there and they're going to throw down and scrap it out. So I don't really have a problem with it, right? But if you look at these fights, look at 324. The big gripes are obviously Gaethje versus Pimblett. It's an amazing matchup, but why is it for the interim belt, right? We have Arman Sarukian, who we all know, he is the clear-cut guy. Him and Ilya is the fight to make, which I don't know if we're ever going to get at this point, to be honest. That's a conversation for another video. But I think Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett is a banger matchup, but it shouldn't be for the interim lightweight belt. We know that, right? They are not the top guys in the division. They're just not. But at the end of the day, it's a great fight, right? So again, the UFC is basically booking these title fights that are, you know, for the main events of this and 325, which we'll talk about in just a second. The UFC is going, especially in the Paramount era. I've mentioned this before. I said this a while ago when they changed over with how they were doing the rankings. The UFC is basically trying to manufacture the rankings and who is going to get the next title shots. It's all about popularity, viewership, all those kinds of things, and really who they want to be the champion, right? And then if you become the champion, they're going to give you favorable matchups. They're going to look out for you. But if you're a guy that they don't want you as the champion, they're going to do almost everything in their power to get you off the throne. They're going to give you bad matchup after bad matchup, and they're basically going to put you in the blender and see if they could get you to fold. Right, so these fighters that they're trying to push, it's very clear what the UFC is doing, man. Right, in the new Paramount deal, it's going to be the entertainment factor. Right, so that's what the UFC is going for. But outside of the weird title fight bookings, which, to be very clear, they're all amazing fights, they're just not the right ones in my opinion, right? And I've already vented enough, but we have to give the UFC credit as well, man. Amanda Nunes, Kayla Harrison, biggest women's fight probably of all time, right? Song Yadong, Sean O'Malley, amazing matchup. Arnold Allen, Jean Silva, amazing matchup. Umar Nurmagomedov versus David Figueiredo, great fight. Great fight, although I think it's pretty one-sided on the side of Umar. It's still a good fight. Former champion Figueiredo, been pretty good in the bantamweight division, right? It's a fresh matchup, right? Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Derek Lewis, banger. Right, so this is the first pay-per-view, and if you look at the whole card, I mean, there's a lot of great matchups on this card, man. You have Atiba Gauthier on that card. Like, the UFC's really cooking with the matchmaking, man. Like, I don't feel like they're getting enough props for the matchmaking, right? But again, It to a degree, it's being overshadowed because you do some BS like this. You go ahead and you give Diego Lopez, I don't want to say undeserved, right? Because he goes out there, starches Jean Silva. And look, I'm a big Diego Lopez fan. But the bottom line is we had two guys that we would all rather see fight for the belt next in Lerone Murphy and Movsar Evloev. Those are fresh matchups for Volkanovski, right? Volk is running this back with Lopez. That was Volk's last fight was against Lopez. And Lopez got 49-46. But the way that we're seeing rematches go now, you just can't count anybody out in a rematch, man. And I'm worried for Volkanovski because while I think Volk is the more skilled fighter, we're now talking a year later. Diego Lopez is coming off of a crazy KO over a very dangerous guy in Jean Silva. And look, the UFC wants Diego as champion. He's popular. They're trying to tap into that market, right? Representing Mexico and Brazil. And to be fair, Diego Lopez, I like the guy, man. He's an amazing fighter. He's all action, and it is a great fight. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a banger. But it's just not fair to Volkanovski, in my opinion, man. You're just, that's how the UFC's treated this guy. They just don't really care about Volk. They never have, in my opinion, right? I know other people, out here, we talk about this. It's very evident, man. It's very, very evident. The way that they treat Volkanovski, I feel like is horrible, right? It just is. What about Volk's legacy? Give him fresh matchups. Lerone was deserving. Movsar Evloev kind of been inactive, so that one I've kind of drawn back on a little bit, but Lerone Murphy has absolutely earned it as well. And Movsar's undefeated, and most importantly, they're fresh matchups for Volkanovski. But again, they're hoping, the UFC, in my opinion, is hoping Diego Lopez goes out there and finds a way to knock out Volk. That's what they're hoping. Then the co-main event is a banger, man. Dan Hooker versus Benoit Saint-Denis. Like, Dan Hooker making a quick turnaround right after getting beat up by Arman Tsarukyan, back in there against another ferocious grappler in Benoit Saint-Denis, right? I don't think that BSD is as good as Arman, but he's on a hot streak, right? Running over Kyle Prepolek, upsetting Mauricio Rufy, pretty much dominating Rufy, which was very impressive, and then starching Benny Dariush in round one. Like, BSD's back, man. He's on the comeback right now, right? He's got head coach Nicolas Ott in his corner, and it just feels like they really have Benoit Saint-Denis in the right mind. And then Rafael Fiziev versus Mauricio Rufy, like, absolute banger, man. Right, Tai Tuivasa, Taliesin Teixeira, Jimmy Crute, Dustin Jacoby, there's a lot of great fights, man. There's good matchmaking. Again, not a ton of name value as you go down the card, but a lot of us know these guys. I think that these are good matchups, man. Action-packed fights for the most part. I feel like the UFC just needs to get a shout-out, man, for a lot of the matchmaking because outside of the suspect title fights that we're getting, which we're not idiots. We clearly see what they're doing, right? It's not like the UFC is just so blind to what's going on. They know what they're doing. It's all intentional. It's all based on popularity, and to be honest, I don't know that we're going to see the number one ranked guy really fight for the belt. That's not going to be the norm anymore, man. It's going to be based on popularity, the guys that are marketing themselves, and who the UFC sees as a profitable champion in their eyes. That's what I think we're looking at, man, and we all see it. We all recognize it, and unfortunately that, rattling off 10 wins in a row and being the top guy, and it's not necessarily going to be enough in this new era that we're heading into with the UFC. We've kind of seen it, over the past, but I think it's going to be even worse when we get into Paramount. So the title fights are going to be suspect, but outside of that, man, they're still banger matchups. They're still exciting fights. They're just not the right fights. But outside of that, I mean, look how good these fights are, man. These are banger matchups, dude. They are. They're all great fights. They're all amazing fights. So just wanted to give a little shout out to the UFC for that, right? Everyone's always so negative about the matchmaking, and I've done my fair share of complaining as well. But we got to recognize, we got to be real and give them credit where it's due, man, because these are a lot of really good matchups, and they're building up the young guys very, very nicely, right? Quillen Salkild, Jonathan McCaleb, right? I mean, look at this card, man. Billy Alicana, Cam Ralston, right? I know it's not the most glamorous matchups, but they're slow building some of these guys, man. So, again, I think the UFC is doing a very solid job with the matchmaking outside of the suspect title fights that we all have been complaining about. Now, that was my little rambling on about that. Now, let's get into the matchups at UFC 326. Now, I already talked about this fight a little bit when it was originally announced, but my early prediction is Max Holloway wins this fight. I think that he's able to get a knockout over Charles Oliveira in the third or fourth round, right? But the most intriguing thing to me about this fight is obviously this is a rematch, right? Back in the day, Max was able to beat Charles down at featherweight, but clearly these guys are two different guys, man. Like Charles Oliveira at lightweight is a totally different beast than featherweight Charles, right? Charles back in the day, we would see him kind of wilt. We'd see him just kind of, I don't know. He wasn't the same guy, right? Charles is an absolute menace at 155 pounds. And what we've seen throughout Holloway in his career, like outside of Holloway outside of this fight between these guys the first time, like when does Max actually face elite level grapplers? We don't really see it. Like think back. Most of his career, it's been, guys that are basically strikers. Now he's in there with a guy in Charles Oliveira whose wrestling has never been better. We already know he's got an elite jiu-jitsu game, right? He's the most prolific finisher in the history of the sport. And look, I think if Charles goes out there and he tries to strike with Max for 25 minutes, it's going to be a bad night for him. Because while I think Charles is the more powerful guy, he's still so hittable, man. His defense is really, really bad. I know he's got that aggressive Muay Thai, that, he's on the front foot, marches into range, good kicks. Right, I love watching Charles Oliveira fight, but let's be honest, his boxing defense is awful. It's probably his biggest weakness, right? But he's very accustomed to getting rocked, getting dropped, and is Holloway going to, if he is able to rock and drop Charles like I think he will, does he follow him to the ground? Right, so there's a lot of interesting variables to this fight, man, and Charles is coming off of one of the best performances of his career against Matchmaking Gamrot, who was a guy that a lot of people weren't very excited to see, or aren't super excited to see, aren't excited to get in there and fight. Right, because Gamrot's a difficult guy to deal with, right? He doesn't get tired, crazy pace, crazy wrestling, right? And a lot of fighters were like, I don't want that fight, right? They're kind of looking around pretending that Gamrot doesn't exist because Gamrot's a pain in the ass to fight. And Charles Oliveira went out there and dominated him at his own game. Now, granted, it was short notice for Gamrot, but still got dominated by Charles. So, obviously Charles got destroyed by Ilia Topuria in the very first round. We know Holloway was doing pretty well against Ilia before he got knocked out, and Max has looked unstoppable at 55. Right, the two wins over, Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier recently are just spectacular. Pretty much masterclasses, right? And I know you could say Gaethje's a little older, Poirier's a little older, so is Charles. Right, and I feel like the technicalities when it comes to the boxing are probably better on the side of, Poirier for sure and Gaethje, right? I mean, Oliveira's got the better overall, maybe like Muay Thai with the knees and the elbows and the variety, but I don't know, man. I feel like this is a tough fight for Charles. If he grapples, I think he could have a lot of success. But we've seen that Max is a scrambly little rascal on the ground, man, right? He's a hard guy to hold down. He's wormy, right? Wiry. I feel like this is Max's fight, man. I feel like he goes out there and just kind of picks apart Charles Oliveira. But we saw Dustin get to Holloway and clip him, right? We saw Gaethje land a big shot on Holloway as well. So can never count out Charles because with Charles, it's different, right? You get rocked, you're in a world of trouble, man, because he'll just hop on a submission and get you out of there. So I love this fight, man, and I think that this could be a potential number one contender fight. Now, I know that Dana, he'll throw around, he hasn't really said anything in terms of that for this fight, but I'm just going off of the landscape of the lightweight division right now. Like the UFC basically left Arman Sarukian out, which I feel like was intentional, right? They're still mad at him, still holding all these grudges against him. So the bottom line is they're going to probably make him fight a few fights before he even gets a title shot. And I have my doubts about him ever fighting for the title at this point, man. Right, and both guys have history with Ilia, and like I said, Arman's being left out. Right, so Max Holloway goes out there and puts on a great performance against Charles, right? These guys are massive fan favorites, right? The UFC loves these guys. So say Charles finishes Oliveira, or say Charles finishes Holloway, you mean to tell me he's not going to get back in there for a title shot? I think the UFC will do it. You think if Holloway goes out there and beats Charles Oliveira impressively, right, they don't throw him in there for a title shot? They absolutely will. I think the winner of this will be next in line for a title fight. It'd be a 2-fight win streak in a row for Charles, right? I think that's 2 in a row, right? Beat Garbrandt, then Holloway, since the Ilia KO, right? And then Holloway, I mean, he's been on a pretty good tear as well. I know he got KO'd by Ilia, but before that, right, starched Gaethje, came up, beat Poirier. I don't know, man. Holloway's never looked better at 155 pounds. His footwork is good. His defense looks better, and the speed and the power, it's looking great at 155 pounds, man. So I got Holloway in this fight. That's my early prediction, but I think the winner of this fight is going to fight for the belt next. Given what we're seeing in the weight class, like the winner of Gaethje and Pimblett's going to fight Ilia, and then after that, I mean, I feel like the winner of this is probably going to get the next title shot over Arman. Not saying it's right. I think Arman should be the guy fighting against Ilia next, but it's very clear that that is not going to happen. I think the UFC booked out the rest of the division on purpose, and they put this matchup together, one, because it's a banger, but also I think that they have the idea that the winner of this could be next in line to fight for the belt after the winner of Gaethje and Patty fight Ilia. So great fight, man, but I think that this is going to end up being a number one contender fight, and Arman's just going to get left out completely, which is what we're seeing right now. All right, Caio Borralho versus Reiner De Ridder. This is a huge bounce back opportunity for both guys, man, and I honestly think that this is a tricky fight to pick because if, like I said at the beginning of the video, if we were going off of Reiner De Ridder, the guy with all the hype after beating Bo Nickel, after beating Robert Whittaker, I feel like a lot of people would be picking RDR to win this fight. Maybe there's still a lot of people that are going to pick Reiner to win, but I got to be honest, man. I think at a 3-rounder, 15-minute fight, like, I think Caio Borralho is just a better overall fighter, right? And I feel like people are going to be quick to forget about Borralho. Like, I think Nassourdine Imavov just might be the best striker at 185 pounds right now. Like, he is an absolute problem on the feet. He's lightning fast, hard guy to close the distance on, very, very good. You know, and I just feel like stylistically, that's why I picked Imavov. It wasn't the best matchup for Caio Borralho. But in this fight, I mean, RDR is not great on the feet. We know he's got those hellacious knees, which are his best weapon. But on the feet, I mean, he's got a decent jab. But outside of that, his striking's goofy, right? He's got kind of that circus-like striking, right? It's not particularly good, right? And he was talking about how the weight cuts and the activity were catching up to him. And here he's bouncing back. And I mean, I guess the bright side of this is, you know, he does have some time, obviously, in between since the Brennan Allen fight, right? He's got, you know, a few months in between. And no, this is not going to be a 5-rounder. This is going to be a 3-rounder. So I guess that favors RDR quite a bit. But I think Caio Borralho is clearly the better striker. I think on the ground, like, maybe you could give RDR the advantage there. But is it by much? I'm not sure. And I think if Caio Borralho keeps this fight on the feet, I think he's going to pick apart Reiner De Ridder, man. Because I look at Caio Borralho as maybe a little bit better than a guy like Robert Whittaker right now. I know Robert Whittaker is amazing, right? And he's one of the best strikers we've had at middleweight, but Robert Whittaker to me is not the same guy anymore. That's why I picked RDR to beat him, even though it was very close. Whittaker caught him with a big shot, man. Like, I know Borralho's not, you know, the most dangerous guy per se, but he's got pretty good power. His striking's pretty good, and his ground game is pretty good as well. His jiu-jitsu's solid. His wrestling is pretty good. Early prediction, I think Caio Borralho wins a decision here. I think that this is going to be a competitive fight, but I don't know, man. I feel like, I don't want to say that RDR's gotten exposed, but I don't know. I feel like, yeah, he gained a ton of hype, and I still think that RDR is really good, but I feel like he might be getting a little bit overrated at this point, man. And Brennan Allen, I know Brennan Allen is sneaky good, right? I feel like, you know, Allen doesn't really get the credit he deserves, but to lose that badly to Brennan Allen, man, and like, I know people are going to say the weight cuts, it all caught up because RDR is a massive guy. It looks like a light heavyweight to me, right? And he drops down to 185, which I'm sure is a brutal weight cut, and that's obviously going to take a toll on your body. So if he comes back rejuvenated, not feeling the weight cut, not feeling drained, not feeling burnt out, I mean, you can never count out RDR, man. His ground game is really, really good, and if he can put Caio Borralho on his back and control him there for large portions of the fight, RDR is going to get this thing done. But if Borralho stops the takedowns, keeps his fight on the feet, he's busy, he's got pretty good striking, I think Caio Borralho picks and pokes his way to a decision. And like I said, this is a big opportunity for both guys, man, because Borralho coming off of the loss to Imavov, he was on a hot streak before that. RDR was on a hot streak prior to losing to Brennan Allen, and make no mistake about it, it was a pretty humiliating loss for Reinier. Came out aggressive, had a great first round, and then just, I mean, fell off a cliff after round one, man. So I think this is a competitive fight, but I'm going to side with early prediction. I'm going to go Caio Borralho. I think the movement, the volume, the striking is way better than RDR. You just got to watch that knee, man. That knee from RDR is nasty. And I think on the ground, while RDR's got good jiu-jitsu, very good judo, his takedowns are nice, I think Borralho will be ready for that, man. I think he stops the takedowns. Even if he does get taken down, he's not some rookie on the ground that's going to be a fish out of water. I think he survives on the floor, creates space, gets back up. If he gets taken down, I got Borralho outscoring Reiner De Ridder. And I'm not saying the winner finds himself in the title conversation, but this would be a big win here given where middleweight is at right now. So big opportunity for both guys to bounce back. Early prediction, I'm going to go Caio Borralho, but I'd be interested to see what you guys think, because if RDR didn't lose to Brendan Allen like that and he would have beaten Brendan Allen, one, I don't know if we'd get this fight, but I feel like maybe more people would be higher on RDR to get this one done. I just feel like a lot of people are going to be leaning Caio Borralho. So I think Borralho is a better overall fighter, if you want my honest opinion, right? RDR's ground game is really good, but on the feet, I think he's very vulnerable, and I think that Borralho can put it on him. If you put pressure on RDR, we see that he is a very different fighter. Give me Borralho. All right, Brian Ortega versus Renato Moicano. I think that this is a pretty straightforward fight, man. And obviously this is a rematch, but this time it's 185 pounds, right? The first time around, right, way back, some years back, Brian Ortega was able to submit Moicano in round number 3. And I understand that both guys are a little older now. I understand that Ortega hasn't looked like the same guy. He hasn't. But keep in mind, he's been fighting some of the best guys in the world at 145 pounds, man. And it was very clear to me that he should not have been fighting at 145 pounds his past few fights. The weight cuts were miserable. This guy was looking like a zombie up there at the scales, man. He looked horrible. He looked absolutely drained, sucked out, like no energy whatsoever. Right? And I feel like that was, very much impacting Brian Ortega on fight night. And he deserves a ranked opponent right away, man. Like, Brian Ortega has been a staple at the top at 145 pounds for forever. Fighting the who's who. Fighting super dangerous guys. Fight after fight after fight. And don't forget how much danger he had Volkanovski in back when they fought for the belt, man. People forget, man, but you know what I'm saying. And I just don't see how Renato Moicano wins this fight. What is he better at than Brian Ortega? I don't think he's better than Ortega at anything. Brian Ortega is going to have the lighter man skill coming up. I think his boxing is way better than Moicano. I think he might even, I don't know if he has more power, right? Moicano's never known for his power, but I wouldn't rule it past Ortega to be more powerful. I think Ortega, you know what, I'll say Ortega's more powerful, dog. I think his striking is better, switches stance as well as boxing's pretty crisp, and I think his ground game is better than Moicano. I think Ortega's wrestling's improved a lot, and I think his jiu-jitsu is way better than Moicano. Moicano's good on the ground, his jiu-jitsu's good, but is it better than Ortega? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think Brian Ortega's going to sub Moicano's ass once again. I'm going second round, early prediction sub by Brian Ortega. I think he absolutely destroys Renato Moicano, man. I think Moicano's good, but I think he's obviously been very overrated. Not because he lost to Islam Makhachev. We all knew that Islam was going to run him over, but just look at what Moicano, look at the Dariush fight. He dropped him early, but outside of that, Dariush dominated Moicano in that fight, man. And that's why I picked Dariush, because Moicano's overrated. His ground game's not that great. He should have been knocked out and stopped by Jalen Turner at 300, but Turner tried the walk-off KO and all that fanciness, and, Moicano bounced back, which fair play, right? He's durable, he's tough, he's not going to give up on himself, but Brian Ortega is literally better at everything than Renato Moicano, man. I think Brian Ortega destroys Renato Moicano and gets right into the top 10 in this weight class, man. Because Brian Ortega's been around for a while. Got a lot of miles on him. He's taken a lot of damage, but Moicano's just not dangerous. At least with the striking, he's not. On the ground, he's good. But I think Brian Ortega is better all around as a grappler than Moicano. And I think he's better all around as a striker. Give me Brian Ortega to put on a vintage Ortega performance and completely annihilate Renato Moicano. Give me a second round sub for T-City. All right. We got two more. We got Costa Ferreira, then we got the Cody Garbrandt fight. Okay, listen. This might sound crazy, right? I know that maybe recency bias is playing in a little bit here, right? And one, I'm a big fan of watching Paulo Costa fight. I feel like we all are, right? Paulo Costa is one of the most entertaining fighters on the entire roster, in my opinion. I feel like Paulo Costa is absolutely going to beat the brakes off of Bruno Ferriera, dude. I think that this is a fun fight, but a layup for Costa. I know that sounds crazy because when you talk about Paulo Costa, it's like, when has he really made anyone look that easy? He made Roman Kopylov look really easy, and I think Roman Kopylov is better than Bruno Ferriera, at least technically speaking. The only facet of Bruno Ferreira that, he adds is he's powerful. His gas tank is horrible. He throws these big, wild, swinging ooga-booga shots. And just kind of charges forward, throwing these reckless shots. I'm like, Costa's going to eat that up all day long. While Paulo Costa is maybe not the guy that walked down Yoel Romero, right? We hear Joe Rogan mention that every single Paulo Costa fight. Oh, Costa, they chiseled like a Greek god. He walked down Yoel Romero, right? He says the same things about Costa over and over. People forget, man. I think Paulo Costa beats the brakes off of Bruno, man. A prime Marvin Vettori would have schooled Bruno Ferreira, and that ain't saying much. And I know that MMA math, Marvin Vettori beat Paulo Costa, and I get all that. But Paulo Costa that we're seeing recently, I think is actually better than Costa back in the day, right? He's not as flat-footed just walking forward into range. He's very light on his feet, darting in and out of range. His speed looks excellent. He looked really good against Kopylov. And I know, Kopylov just lost to RoboCop, and, I get all that, but Kopylov's pretty good, man. He looked like a deer in headlights against Costa, but that's because Costa's speed was great. That right hand was finding the target, and Costa has some of the nastiest kicks in this weight class, man. His leg kicks to the body, head kicks, he's fast, man. And Costa's normally the guy where it's like, we question his gas tank. It's going to be a 15-minute fight. Bruno Ferreira's gas tank is dog shit. I think he has one of the worst gas tanks in the UFC right now, especially at middleweight for sure. I think Costa beats the brakes off of Bruno Ferreira. Maybe it's a competitive first round, but Costa's defense isn't the greatest. He's got an iron chin, not afraid to get after you, and I think he puts the pressure on Bruno Ferreira. Costa's not washed, man. Marvin Vettori is clearly a shell of himself. Vettori should retire. He's not the same fighter. Costa very much is still very good. And I think he goes out there and turns Bruno Ferreira into a heavy bag, man. I think he beats him up, nasty kicks to the body. Bruno Ferreira's going to be throwing these big swinging ooga-booga shots, and Costa's just going to be countering him all day long, walking him down, ripping to the body. I think Costa gets a late TKO. I'm going to say round 3 TKO, early prediction by Paulo Costa. I still believe right now, I'm still going to hold this prediction. Costa will make Bruno Ferreira look very easy. It's a great fight on paper, and it's going to be a fun fight while it lasts, but I think Costa's way better than Bruno Ferreira. I think Bruno Ferreira is one of the most overrated guys on the rise in the UFC right now. And I've been picking Bruno to win a lot of these fights that he's been winning. But it's just inevitable to me that you put a game guy in front of him that's not afraid of the big power of Bruno Ferreira. They're going to stun on him, and I think Costa does. I think it's a competitive first round. Maybe Costa eats a shot or two, but I think Paulo's going to bust Bruno Ferreira's ass up and get a late round stoppage. I think this is Costa all day long, man. This is the most confident pick. Of all the fights that have been announced this year, I feel so confident that Paulo Costa is going to go out there and beat the brakes off of Bruno Ferreira, man. I think Bruno's good, but there's a lot of holes in his game. I think Costa will exploit them. All right, last but not least, we got Cody Garbrandt. Listen, if you guys have been watching the channel for a while, you know that I've been a massive fan of Cody Garbrandt, man. Ever since this guy came into UFC, and I've always said that he was one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen in combat sports history when he beat Dom Cruz for the title, man. I mean, vintage Garbrandt, man. He looked unbelievable in that Cruz fight. But outside of that, the Dillashaw losses, I feel like were the undoing of Garbrandt's career, and he just hasn't been the same since. I feel like he's been having these midlife crises, getting that tattoo sword on his face. I mean, Garbrandt just to me is a guy that I don't know. I don't know where Garbrandt's head is at. Does he have anything left at this point? Right now, obviously, Cody Garbrandt can still fight. But when I say does he have anything left, Cody's now at the point where, again, the guys he's losing to are still good, right? Davison Figueiredo, Hani Barcelos, who's the most underrated bantamweight in the world right now, without question. So losing to Barcelos, no problem, right? He was in that fight as well. It's not like he got dominated by Barcelos. But Garbrandt's been figured out by a lot of people, man. If you fight Garbrandt's ego, you can find that KO on him, right? He's very chinny. Right, he's got good speed, good, decent boxing, right? It used to be really good. Now it's a little bit sloppy. He's still got good boxing, very good speed, very, very good takedown defense. The only guy that's been able to dominate him on the ground and submit him was Davison Figueiredo, right? Outside of that, Garbrandt's ground game is some of the best we've seen in bantamweight history, man. In terms of takedown defense, he's been great. I feel like that's not talked about enough with Garbrandt. He's a scrambly rascal on the ground, man. Scrambly little rascal. Hard guy to hold down, works back to the feet very well, good boxing, good speed. I think he's clearly better than Long Xiao. I favor Cody Garbrandt to win this fight, and I'm going to say that he knocks out Long Xiao, man. Listen, I know that Xiao was able to stop Quang Le, right? And maybe you could say, well, how does Garbrandt and Le play out? I think Garbrandt knocks out Quang, right? And you look at the fights from Long Xiao, I'm not impressed. I know he's got some power. He's got a solid ground game, but is his ground game good enough to trouble Cody on the floor? I don't think so. So this is stuck on the feet, in my opinion. Who's better? I think Cody's better. Now, he gets a little bit wild, like I said, you tag Garbrandt, he sees red, bites down, and tries to get one back. If Garbrandt doesn't do that and he actually kind of fights what we've actually seen him been doing in his past few fights, I think he wins this fight, man. I think he wins this fight. Cody's still got the speed, man. His speed is still there, still got power. Power's, like I say, probably the last thing to leave for fighters. We know that Cody Garbrandt, in my opinion, is one of the hardest hitting bantamweights we've had, man. People just kind of crap all over Garbrandt. I understand that he's kind of fallen off a cliff, was at the mountaintop, and then just went on a straight line down, man. It's kind of crazy. But I think Cody Garbrandt is still the better fighter. I know he's a little older. Where's his head at this point? Is he just kind of hanging around for paychecks? I don't think so, man. I think that Cody Garbrandt wins this fight. I think he knocks him out. I think we see a vintage Cody Garbrandt type of performance. I know Xiao's got some power, decent striking. His ground game's pretty good. I don't think his ground game is good enough to trouble Garbrandt, and I think that this fight plays out on the feet, and maybe Long Xiao catches him because we've seen Garbrandt's chinny. Like I said, he sees red and bites down and tries to get one back. If he doesn't do that and fights smart, I think Cody Garbrandt wins this fight. I think he knocks out Long Xiao. Xiao is chinny, in my opinion. I just haven't been very impressed with Long whatsoever, man. I think he's good, but I don't know. I'm not hyped up on him. I think this is a very winnable fight for Cody Garbrandt. Again, young prospect, young fighter, right? Xiao's got the momentum right now. Garbrandt's kind of been, up and down. Where's his head at? So I have those questions, but I think Cody Garbrandt wins this fight, man. I think that this is actually a pretty good matchup for him. Again, Xiao's got some power, so got to be careful, but I think Garbrandt's better. I think he's still clearly the better fighter. It's just the fact that we've kind of seen the ups and downs from Cody, and things always haven't looked particularly good. But I don't think they've looked that great for Xiao as well, right? Outside of that nice KO over Quang Lei, which that was impressive. I haven't been that impressed. So I'm going early prediction, Cody Garbrandt by, I'll say, second round KO. I think he actually gets a KO for the first time in quite some time, man. So like I said, shout out to the UFC. Look at this card. I mean, it's early, still getting, built out. These are great matchups. Great fights on here. Again, the title fights, we've all complained. I've done my complaining. I don't agree with them, but still, they're good fights. Banger matchups, a lot of good prospects. The UFC is about as good as it's been, man, in terms of the talent. So excited for these cards, man. Excited for the Paramount era. But if you guys enjoyed this video, do me a favor, give it a like. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new. I would greatly appreciate it. See you next time.